Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the Brewing Business Show. This is a space dedicated to the craft beer industry and entrepreneurs who wants to learn more about mindset, health, wealth, business, and of course, beer. I'm your host, Pedro Meneses, and before we start, I just want to make sure you buckle up, crack open a cold one, and get ready to hear some life-changing information. Cheers! Live. So welcome back everybody to episode 32 of the Brewing Business Show. If this is your first time, be sure to check out the previous episodes and don't forget to leave me a review on iTunes so you can help more people to find the show. Guys, today I have the pleasure to introduce you to a legend and a master in marketing. With over 30 years of experience in marketing, he is the co-founder of Promote the Brew and the Market the Brew podcast. Most days you will find him and his brother working with craft breweries on their retail merchandise programs, but they don't only help their clients with actual products, but they also help develop product timelines and product plans to help breweries increase profitability to reduce inventory. And since March, they've been focusing more on helping more companies with their messaging and digital marketing. And today he's here with us to help us navigate the marketing world and give us some of the strategies you need to adjust to the new ways of doing business and promote your brand. So welcome to the show, Scott. It's a pleasure to have you here, man.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. I've listened to a few of your other podcasts already and honored that you've asked me to be a part of the group that you've assembled already. And looking forward to seeing who you bring in the future, because I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, because one of the goals of my podcast, like I mentioned to you before, is not only to bring people from the industry, but actually bring also people from other industries that have been very successful, that they have built even 8-9 figures companies, and they can share that knowledge with other people because, I believe that definitely success leaves clues, right? And we can learn from all this industry. We can learn from what people is doing in real estate, what people is doing in supplements, what people is doing in marketing, and implement all that knowledge into the craft beer industry as well,
Yeah, best practices don't limit themselves to industries. I think that, what's a good practice in one industry can often relate to best practices in other industries.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I don't remember who said that, but their principles are few, but methods are many, but principles are few. Like regardless of the method, the principles are the same for any single industry. But before we jump in all the marketing and all the strategies that I know you want to share with my audience today, man, I'm grateful for that. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about yourself, your background, because I know that you have a lot of experience in marketing. So, and I know that you work with Harley-Davidson and you have all this great experience. So why don't you talk to us a little about yourself and your background, man?
Okay. Well, as I mentioned earlier, when we were talking, I grew up in a family business. My father owned a promotional marketing company. And so from the time I was 4 up until I think I was 12, there were always conversations around the table talking about business, marketing. My dad, when he first started, was doing a lot of incentives. A lot of it was with the financial institutions. So I don't know if a lot of our listeners will remember, but when you used to open up a savings account of $25 or more, or a Christmas Club account, you get a free gift, a toaster, a blender, a camera, whatever it might be. Our company was one of the companies in the United States that were doing all the gifts for these financial institutions. And then the government regulated how much you could get as a gift. That business went south. And then we merged back into the promotional marketing, which is anything with your logo on it. And we've done some pretty crazy things with logos on it in my day. So when I was younger, everybody in my family started at the same spot. We were cleaning toilets, washing windows, dusting shelves, emptying garbage cans. And each one of us eventually got into the family business. The smart ones left early and went on to other things. I stayed as long as I could. And I learned a lot. For 25 years, I was working with Harley-Davidson, and we took their dealer promotional program from a handful of dealers back in 1990 to we were working with over 3,000 dealers worldwide, and we were helping them to promote their businesses on a local level. And we find Harley-Davidson to be very much like the craft brew industry. Each of the Harley dealers were independent owners. So Harley-Davidson gave them all the support they needed, a lot of the marketing, but they were able to manage the business on their own. The
Right.
craft breweries are very much the same because they're all independent. They have the Craft Brewers Association that help them out. There's a handful of other groups like the Craft Beer Professionals on Facebook that help and support each other. And so in those areas, they're very similar. I think the really cool similarities too is if you've ever seen a Harley-Davidson t-shirt, it's always on the back. It has a design that talks about community, what community that Harley dealers in. And craft beer breweries are very community oriented as well. So there's so many similariries to this that Steve and I thought, well, you know what? We've had some great success marketing with Harley-Davidson and the dealers. Let's bring some of that over to the craft beer industry. And so that's kind of how we got into the craft beer industry. We do have another company that we do regular promotions for regular businesses. Some of the colleges we work with, you know, they don't want to get an invoice that says promote the brew on it. So we have another business name that we use for that. And then since COVID hit, we've been working with a lot of customers that have been doing a lot of one-way marketing. So they've been posting pictures and showing all the fun they were having in their brewery or in their tap room and events they were doing and things like that, but they really weren't engaging with the customer. So it was one-way communication. And when everything shut down and they weren't getting customers to come into their establishment or in the brewing industry, stop at the curb to buy beer, they were looking for ways to engage with their customers and get them to come out and buy their beer. And so the breweries that were using engagement strategies in their marketing and social media, they had a large group of people that kept showing up on the street corner to buy their beer on a regular basis. Or if they were at retail, they were buying their product at grocery stores and liquor stores. And that's a whole nother story. I don't know why the government thought breweries were not essential, but the beer they made sold through a liquor store was essential. But that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But I think that the whole messaging, communication, and engagement really kind of ramped up right after March. And then we started seeing a lot more people contacting us, asking us, how do we get past this? And so that's where we kind of pivoted from the promotional marketing side of it to really core base marketing and messaging and engagement strategies with a lot of our customers. And that kind of leads us up to today.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely, man. You know, one of the things you just mentioned, like you were working with Harley-Davidson in the 1990s. I was like 2 years old when you were already crossing the beer marketing. So, you know, one of the things that I really appreciate is having the opportunity to have a conversation with somebody who have light years of experience compared to me, you know, and I have so many questions right now. I mean, I don't know the people watching this or listening to this in the podcast, but I have so many questions because, you know, since the beginning of this podcast, you know, there's for the people in the industry, we always ask this question about that transition that the industry has been experiencing, especially for the past, 2 decades, you know, when all the digital stuff start getting in. But, and always the answer is like, you know, we used to be like more like a community and like a service industry and like more of like word of mouth and all that kind of stuff. But now we're moving into like, who runs the best business, you know?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's some of the opinions that I have here. Like before it was like, yeah, we have all the marketing and we're running our business, but it was not that focused on, okay, now you need to run a business, like have every single piece together so you can succeed, especially in the digital world. What has been your experience? What have you seen in the industry with this transition from becoming more of a serious businesses? You know what I'm saying?
Again, this kind of is similar to the same track that Harley-Davidson had. When I started with Harley-Davidson, even before I started selling to them back, you know, when I was younger and became more aware of Harley-Davidson, it was a lot of mom and pop shops. And, you know, when I first started to go to some of the Harley-Davidson trade shows, I would start talking to the gentlemen that would come into our booth. And, you know, they would kind of get glossed over and just kind of stare past me. But I noticed their wives would really perk up and really, you know, want to learn more. And that's when I realized that the men were running the shop, but the women were running the business.
Right.
And so Harley took from the 90s into the 2000s, they started to transition their dealerships from a grease monkey shop that sold t-shirts into a retail establishment that encompassed a whole brand.
Right.
And so I think the craft brewing industry is very much similar to that, and we still see a lot of that. I think we're on the beginning end of the maturity rate with the craft brewing industry. I think COVID is going to cause a lot of breweries to go out of business. I think there's going to be a fair amount of consolidation, similar to Canarchy and some of the other groups that pool their resources to become a bigger buyer in the marketplace and to be able to share best practices, share marketing, and take advantage of best practices throughout each brewery. But
Right.
what I see happening is a lot of breweries started out with somebody with a passion for home brewing that either was forced by family and friends to scale up to the next level, or thought to themselves, hey, I'd like to do this hobby as a full-time job, and have moved into that. And what happens, I think, in a lot of areas is these people are really great and passionate about beer. They make great beer, but they really don't understand the marketing part of that. And that's kind of how Steve and I got into the industry is, being from Milwaukee, we had Miller, we had Old Style, Gettleman, all the old brands, and they were all the same tasting beer. So like when Sprecher Brewing and Lakefront and New Glarus, Sam Adams, Anchor, and a few of the other early breweries came out with these craft beers, we're like, wow, this is what beer can be? This is amazing. And so we started looking around for some of these craft breweries. And so, like I said, we hit some of the more popular ones, but then we'd run into people in the tap rooms and they'd say, oh, if you like this beer, you got to try this brewery over here or that brewery over there. And so we'd go out and we'd try and we're like, oh my God, this beer is fantastic. And then we started to talk to the brewers because most of them were tapping beer behind the bar in those early days. And they would tell us stories about how they got into it. And then we'd ask them about marketing and we'd get crickets. They'd look around the room, they go, well, we got some t-shirts over there and, we got some stickers. You want some of those? They really don't understand marketing. And then the light bulb went off and we're like, okay. So we started to talk to some of these breweries and we found some of them were doing some marketing. Right. And the Brickyard in Omaha, Nebraska was one of the first ones that we interviewed, and they did this beer amnesty week. And what you would do is you would bring in your crappy beer, Budweiser, Miller, Coors, whatever the brand was, Old Style, Old Milwaukee, whatever it was. You trade in a 6-pack of that crappy beer and they give you a 6-pack of their beer.
Oh, wow.
And so what they would do is they would have all this beer that they would have to do something with. And so I'm going off my memory right now, so I might be wrong, but I remember like they did a beer slip and slide.
Okay.
So they poured all this beer on this big sheet of plastic and people could slide across it on their belly. They had, I think, where you could throw bottles of beer against a wall.
Wow.
And then one, I think, was a beer dunk tank where the brewer would sit in this dunk tank full of old crappy beer and you could throw baseballs at it to kind of dunk him.
That's fun.
So we did that. And so as Steve started in on this, we're like, man, if we could share this with other breweries, they could use the same kind of ideas in different parts of the country without overlapping on this brewery and use these great ideas to promote their brewery. And they wouldn't have to come up with a new idea. They wouldn't have to figure it all out. They would learn from these podcasts. And so 45 podcasts later, the Market the Brew podcast was when we were running it was, one of the top podcasts in the industry. And I think even today, we still average about 200 to 300 downloads a week.
Nice. That's awesome.
Because there's just such great information. I saw on the Craft Beer Professional, somebody was getting pounded by their landlord down in Florida with like a 38% increase in their rent. And we did a podcast with Brewing where he had negotiated out a 15-year agreement with his landlord, and with every certain number of years there would be a certain percent increase over a 15-year period. So what he did is he locked himself in for 15 years where the owner of the building couldn't price him out and force him out of the market that he built, going into a decompressed area, and then bringing all that business in and revitalizing that area, only to be kicked out because he couldn't afford the rent. And so we share that podcast a lot of times with breweries that are just starting out and negotiating their lease to make sure they're getting the best advantage. So it's taking all these great ideas from all these breweries and sharing them, kind of like you're doing right now with the best practices, where you're taking it from all these different areas and giving it to the breweries through the podcast, saying, try this for success in your own business.
Right. Absolutely. No, that's totally right, man, because there's so many content you can create from like experiences like that one, with this brewery and their lease. Like there's so many stuff that you can create to guide people towards the right direction, especially right now, because, I feel like 2020 is being like, what you said about brewers not doing marketing. I got into this industry over a year ago, like with my company, the marketing brewing company. And I was seeing that same stuff that you saw years ago, there's no people doing this marketing stuff. Right. And I have a plan and everything was working fine. And then, March came and everything went to hell, right? Like we got fucked with COVID and everything started changing. But one of the things that I've been talking a lot is how this actually has been a kind of like a blessing for the industry, because this is pushing the industry to start moving faster into the digital world that we're living in, like
I agree.
At the beginning of the 2000s, right? If you were in real estate, nobody will believe you that you could go to Facebook and get leads from Facebook or MySpace back then, but there were plenty of people crushing it in social media already, but nobody was talking about it. It's like, nah, social media, no, whatever. One of the things that I heard when COVID first hit was, no, man, we are kind of like doing online stuff, but once all this crap is over, we're just going to shut it down. And I was like, how in the hell are you thinking about shutting down your online menu or online order, whatever the case is, right? Now that mentality started to change. So I believe that right now we're in a point where it's like, okay, now we understand that social media can help us. Now what we need to do? That's the question, right?
Right.
What do you answer to somebody tells you, okay, I understand, man. I get it. I know that I need to use my social media. So I need to focus more on building those relationships. Where do I start?
Right. Well, and that's a great conversation to have, because, with some of the breweries that we work with, money is always an issue. And so what we talk about is, if you've said to your taproom manager or one of the people, one of your bartenders, and said, hey, I want you to manage our social media, but this person has kind of dabbled in social media. They don't understand the ins and outs of social media. So what happens is they end up posting pictures of beer, their best customers, this event, that event, and they're really not managing their social media well. And so when we sit down, we say, if you're paying that bartender or that taproom manager, let's say $15 an hour, and they're working 30 hours a week, you should take that money, that $15 an hour for 30, and budget that for your social media. Because, 3 times 15 is 45. So let's say it's $450 a month you spend on social media. You can get so much more out of your social media for $500 a month. And now, if you ramp that up to $1,000 a month, now all of a sudden your social media is really kicking it. And so between Instagram and Facebook, and now that Instagram is owned by Facebook, you can do a lot within Facebook that works in both Instagram and in Facebook. So, don't look at it as an expense, look at it as an investment, because, you'll spend, $20 a bag more for some really good grain to make the base of your beer, or you'll spend more money for a better hop. You should spend more money for a better social media to really drive that business into your business. Because like I said earlier, it was the people that were doing really good on social media that did really good during shutdown. Exactly. It was the people that weren't doing good in social media that weren't doing good during shutdown. And what I also want to point out is, because of COVID, I think that a lot of states and the government are reevaluating the three-tier distribution system. And I think that, within the next 12 to 18 months, we may see a direct consumer business for the brewing industry, very similar to the wine industry, where
Right.
breweries will now be allowed to send beer to a consumer direct. And so by building up your social media savvy and really understanding social media and how to reach customers, not only within your market, but within the continental United States, now that becomes your customer base for direct consumer. So,
Right.
if you think about profits right now, you're paying a tap room manager, a couple of bartenders, and you're selling beer over the counter. And you're only selling so much, but your equipment has this capacity. Now think about being at full capacity without having to add any expenses in, because the people buying the beer are going to pay for the shipping.
Right.
They'll pay for the packaging. All you're going to have to do is pay somebody extra just to pull the beer off the line, put it in a box, seal it, label it, and ship it. Companies like Promote the Brew, we can help you set up a system. There's other companies out there that have the online merchant system set up in place, and even like Toast or Arrive may have a system that allows you to sell, and it goes right into your computer system, kicks out an invoice or a packing list and a label. You box it up and ship it. So if you are not setting yourself up today to be an expert in social media for your business tomorrow, you're going to miss that curve when it hits, and you're not going to be prepared for that direct to consumer selling cycle as an early adopter to take advantage of that marketplace before anybody else.
Absolutely. Just to piggyback a little bit on that, you mentioned something very important about the breweries, that they pay the bartender to handle their social media. But most of the time, I think they do that because they see that the guy is or the girl is posting all these pictures, have a big following, probably she knows how to do this stuff. But I think something that is important to mention is that just because it's social media, it doesn't mean that you have to take it for granted. You need a strategy behind it.
Right.
There has to be a strategy from the type of content you're going to create, how you're going to talk to that customer that you want to attract, okay? Invite them to not only, it can be buy your beer online, or one of the things that I want you to explain to people is how actually your social media can be not only for people to buy online. Like you can actually grab traffic from social media and see people walking through your door,
Oh yeah. And it's as easy as where they come in, where's my phone? Where they come in and they hold up their phone and they say, hey, I took a snapshot of this thing on Facebook that said, show this to the beer tender and get $1 off a pint. Right. Now all of a sudden you're driving that business from social media into your door. We do a lot of this kind of business with breweries, and wooden tokens, beer tokens. A lot of times they used to be used when the bar was closing and you had a half a cocktail. They give you a free drink token. They toss your drink and they tell you to come back and use it and get a free drink on them because they were closing. Right. Now what we do is we put those on the top of a beer can in a 4-pack or a 6-pack that goes out to retail. Wow. So when the customer buys that 4-pack or 6-pack to consume at home, they pop that can out. All of a sudden that wooden token comes out and they're like, wow, I get a free beer for going into the bar or going into the tap room. The other one that we always talk to breweries about is decals. The front of the decal always has your logo, really cool colors, but that back part that you peel off, I have a company that prints on the back of those. And so what we do is we put a coupon on there. Bring a friend in and buy a pint, and we'll give your friend a free pint. So now you've brought 2 people into the tap room. You're charging one for a beer. The other one gets a free beer. Well, they're probably not just going to get the one and leave. Exactly. They're going to have 2 or 3 before they leave. So now you've brought in not just one person, but 2 people, and now they've drank 5 beers and you've given them 1.
Exactly. Wow.
So it's all about driving business. Social media is the same way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, that's great ideas. I like those ideas. I like the idea of the coupon in the can. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And it's smart, you know?
I didn't come up with it, but I'll steal a good idea and I'll give it to anybody that wants it. So
Yeah, I know. And I mean, you guys should be taking notes because this is the type of ideas that you want to implement in your business, especially in this year, you know, and when in years to come. And like you said, especially when it comes to social media, because, you know, one of the things I always say to my clients, like I was just saying, it's important to have a strategy, you know, like there's certain skills you have to learn, even if you're going to hire a marketing company. You know, I believe that you still, as a business owner, or the people who still going to be looking at your social media that is not from the marketing company that you hire or whatever other company, you still have developed some skills, right? Some of those skills that I always encourage my clients to develop is like learn how to set up your profile, like, because your profile now is your business card, you know, like if you're not using your personal profile besides your fan page, I mean, you're losing a lot of business. But I also encourage them to like get at least some basic knowledge in copywriting, you know, like learn how to structure basic offers. So, you know, like how to attract people to click in your menu, to go to the page, to download the coupon. What would be some of the basics skills you would recommend business owners that they should acquire right now, at least know the basics so they can understand what's going on?
That's a double-edged sword. Because we just said, spend that $15 an hour and bring in somebody that really understands it to do it for you. I think instead of understanding how to do these types of things, I think what they need to do is understand how those work and how they can benefit your company, and then find people that can do that really well for you, and then manage that relationship. What Steve and I do is when we first start with a customer and we first launch, we meet with them once a week. We go over the dashboards, we review the information, we talk about what's working, what isn't working, what changes we want to make, and what direction we want to go with them. And they have the authority to say yes, no, or can you explain this more? I don't understand, kind of a thing. And we work with them over time. And so for the first month, it's once a week. For the second month, we do it every other week. The third month and beyond, we do it once a month unless they want to talk more often. And what that really does is it allows us to partner with them and say, okay, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. And at the end of the week, we can say, now this is what we did. This is what you got. This is your return on investment. And so then, you know, the best communication is constant communication, I think. And so sometimes our customers may think we're over communicating, but I'd rather over communicate than not communicate. And so I think by putting people together with the best resources, you know, you don't hire somebody that you're smarter than. You hire somebody that's smarter than you, because they raise the level of your business up. And so a smart brewery owner won't hire people that are average at this stuff. They're going to hire somebody that's really good at this stuff because they want to raise their level of game. It's like tennis. You don't play tennis with somebody worse than you, or golf with somebody worse than you. You find somebody better and then you learn from them. And so I think that's the same strategy you want to use in your social media. And one of the other things, you know, we talk about Facebook, we talk about Instagram. I have a lot of people that I'm connected with in the brewing industry on LinkedIn. That's more business to business, I think. Yeah. But your Google My Business ad, you want to make sure that that is up to date. The information is accurate, and that you're posting pictures, that you're posting events, you're posting promotions, you're using that really well, because in addition to your SEO on your Facebook, the SEO on your SEO on your website, your SEO on your Facebook, your Instagram, and your Google My Business are all going to raise you up in the analytics, and you're going to be at the top of the page more often. And often that Google My Business, somebody fills out that information and then they completely forget about it. Yeah. And so that's why you hire somebody like Promote the Brew to help you manage this, because we're on top of this. We have a team of, I want to say 65 people in the digital marketing area. Wow. That help our customers you don't have to be a subject matter expert, because we have 65 people in various areas of digital marketing that are subject matter experts in these areas. And so what they do is they help us, depending on what the customer's goals are, we help you meet those goals by bringing that information to you and saying, okay, you know, in order to get this, you're going to have to spend $500 a month to do this, but you're going to see these results in 30, 60, and 90 days. And I apologize, I tend to get really excited and talk really fast when I get really excited, and this stuff really gasses me up.
That's what I like, man. That's what I like. I'm just gonna shut up because I need to learn too. You know, and that's the goal. That's you know, that's something that I always, and I think especially when you own a business, when you're a business owner or you're an entrepreneur, you know, sometimes you have that pride when you hear somebody else talking and telling you should not do this, maybe you should do that. You start getting all prideful and like, but you know, I believe that we can learn from everybody. You know, like when I used to own a retail business, you know, I learned from the employee that was his first day. I learned something from that person on his first day, even if he knew shit about sales, you know.
Right.
I learned from that because there's something that you can learn from everybody. So I'm like, you just keep talking, man. I mean, I'm learning, you know, and I'm sure the people watching or listening to the podcast are learning too, you know. And I appreciate your what you just said, because I think that's what I meant with my question. You know, like I'm not saying you brewery owner go and learn everything about social media, but at least know the basics so you can understand what's going on out there and what the kind of services you're trying to offer. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And ask a lot of questions. And if somebody, you know, what was the comedian, Jeff Foxworthy? You know, when somebody explains something to you and they're using technical terms, you have no clue what they're talking about. Like we were talking earlier about LinkedIn. I read that page today and I had no clue what they were talking about. But unfortunately, I couldn't pick up the phone and say, hey, can you explain it to me like I'm a fifth grader?
Right.
That's what you have to do as a business owner, is you have to hold those people accountable to explaining it to you in a way that you understand. And if you don't get them to explain it to you, don't let them go until they do. If you're paying them money, they better explain it to you in a way that you understand. And if you're not getting it and they're not explaining it right, or they're saying one thing, but they're giving you something different, fire them and go find somebody else you can work with.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that, you know, especially in this industry, because, you know, I have seen a lot of other people that also offer like web design and marketing and all that kind of stuff. Like one of the things that I hear the most is like people don't want to work with us because they're afraid of getting ripped off, you know, or they think that marketing is not necessary. Like you need marketing. If you don't have a marketing strategy, you're gonna suffer. Your business is gonna close no matter what. That's the truth, you know. Like you need a marketing strategy, especially in 2020, because it's not that there's a lot of competition. There's plenty of room for all of us. There's plenty of room for all the breweries. But if you have a strategy and you know who you're talking to, you're gonna attract the right people. And you're gonna keep business running. So what I'm trying to say, it is. You're not here, you, me, and other people that serve the industry is not here to try to take people's money. It's to help people grow their business, you know, and that's your goal with Promote the Brew. Is that, yeah, you have to charge a fee because, I mean, you have to make a living, right? But here's the thing, like you just mentioned, this is not about making you spend more money for your business. It's about investing in your business, because your marketing should represent a return on investment. If it's not representing a return on investment, like you said, you don't understand what in the hell they're doing, fire them.
Right. And see, that's one of the biggest problems we have, you know, and we've been trying to figure out how to do this. We spend so much of our time trying to figure out what the customer wants, what's important to them, and then setting them up as the hero or as the guide in their story, and their customers are the hero. And so we work with the breweries to find out what it is that they offer that the consumer really wants. And so what we don't post a lot about ourselves and what we do and the companies we work with, and we're not patting ourselves on the back, and maybe we should do some more self-promoting, but we spend so much time trying to help our customers that we don't have a lot of time left over to promote what we're doing. And so we always hope that it's word of mouth, that, you know, when we do something really good for a brewery, they'll tell 10 of their brewery friends. And, you know, if we screwed something up, I hope they keep it between us. But if we're doing something really good, we hope they tell all their friends. And so we've seen a lot of word of mouth growth within our industry. And, we've got a brewery down in Florida. We did some really cool stainless steel flight racks for them. And she posts those like once a month. Right. And she's always taking us on them. If anybody here is familiar with Radcraft out of Colorado, we did some tote bags for them, and they've been posting on Instagram with this different promotions that they're doing using the bag, and they tag us on those too. So thank you for all the tags. We appreciate it. But I guess it all kind of boils down to the way my father raised my brother and I, and he always, there was an insurance company that called themselves the Quiet Company. And they grew because they did what they did really well. And it was word of mouth that helped them grow. But I think, sometimes we have to do what we promote and promote ourselves a little better than what we do. But we've often found it's not about us, it's about our customers. And if we're helping our customers succeed, we should grow because we're doing a good job. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the ultimate goal when you serve someone else, like if they're growing, we're growing, and everybody's happy, right? Right. Well, we hope everybody's happy. Yeah, no, but I believe, so this conversation, man, it's been very towards like where we going, like the strategies, marketing, and all that kind of stuff. But now let's get into a little bit more of like some advice that you can give some people listening right now, because I know that I know it's hard to go through the process of like, okay, I need to hire a marketing company. I need to do this and that. I need to talk to Scott, or I need to talk to someone else, whatever the case is, right? I need help with my marketing right now. Right. We are by the end of the year almost, right? Like a lot of people is going crazy right now. The holidays are around the corner. But what will be some of basic stuff that you would recommend somebody right now trying to put all this together? Because before you answer that, I understand that we said the 3-tier system is going to go away eventually, or it's going to completely change, right? So I want you to explain is why it's important not to wait until all that starts changing for you to implement a strategy too, like why it's important to start right now, to start navigating towards that direction, so you can, when everything starts completely changing, your business is going to be strong. You know what I mean? Right. Well, part of that strategy is, if you're only advertising to your community, and let's say you're in a city with 1 million people, and your email list is 5,000. Well, that's 5,000 people in your community. That's what, 0.5% of your total population that you're communicating with. And so based on that fact, you've got a very limited reach. And we always talk about this when we're talking about t-shirts. You got to stop thinking about your t-shirts as a promotion and start thinking of them as a retail thing. I mean, when you go out to buy a t-shirt, are you going to buy a t-shirt with the same logo in 6 different colors? Or are you going to buy 6 t-shirts with 6 different designs on them? Right. The same thing holds true with your consumers. Are you going to sell the same 5 t-shirts to those 2,000 customers? Well, what are you going to do when they all have all 5 of your shirts? Right. You either have to find something new to sell to their 5,000 customers, or you need to find 5,000 more customers to sell your t-shirts to. So what you want to do is you want to constantly increase your digital marketplace. So the number of people that follow you, that like you, that you're engaging with through social media. And so what happens is somebody comes into your tap room and they're from another state, and they come in and they have a couple of beers, they have a great experience, they buy a can holder and a t-shirt and they leave. Well, now they're promoting your product in another area. And so what you want to do is have that person start to share that information in social media in their area, and then get those people interested to come check out your website and your social media and start to be friends with you. And continue to grow that market, because once you can start selling to people direct, you'll be able to sell beer to, let's say you're in the middle of the country, you're Missouri. Right. Now you're selling beer to Washington State and Washington, D.C., Portland, Maine, and Portland, Oregon. From the base of California to the corner of Maine, from Washington State to Florida, and everything in between.
Right.
And depending on what the laws look like, you may even be able to send beer over the border into Canada. Canada has a growing craft beer market. They have a huge amount of beer consumers, and that market could open up for you. You could also, I think, at some point down the line, maybe even be able to sell into Europe. Who knows? But if you're not ready the day that happens, I mean, everybody who's ready is going to be on the front end, and they're going to suck up market share, and it's going to be really hard for you to compete in that marketplace because there's so much noise already. And so the people that think of tomorrow today and start to work for tomorrow today are going to be the ones that lead the charge when that gate opens up. It's like a beer festival. You know, it's not always the guy at the front of the gate. It's the guy that's prepared and is the fastest out of the gate that gets to that far beer tent first and gets the first glass of that really good barrel-aged beer. You want to be that guy or that girl. You know, you want to be the leader. You want to get there first and make, you know, it's like the iPod. You know, Apple was the first out with the iPod, and they soaked up all the market share. And then all of a sudden, all these other companies started coming, and they started, you know, chiseling away at the market share. But Apple owned that market for the longest time. And so you want to be prepared to hit that market so that you're in a leading position so that you can take advantage of that and gain as much market share before that starts to mature and level off. And then, you know, just like the craft beer industry with 9,000 breweries, you know, all of a sudden now you're competing for shelf space. You don't want to compete for the direct to consumer market at the beginning. You want to be the leader so that, you know, you're the most recognized brand on that direct to consumer marketplace before all these other companies start to figure it out and get into the market.
Absolutely. And, you know, I totally agree with you. Everything is going to change. Like, I mean, if you as a brewery owner or anybody watching this have learned something from 2020, like everything can change like this, you know, and that is exactly what happened. You know, like most of the people that are struggling right now with their breweries is because they didn't have that marketing strategy that we talked at the beginning, right? Like they didn't have that. Now they're trying to adapt in the middle of the shit show, and now it's like hard for them. And the same thing is going to happen if you don't start adapting to that direct to consumer right now, because when everything's going to, like you said, the gates are going to be wide open, then you're not going to know what to do. And then you're going to hurt your business. So I really appreciate you for saying that, man, bringing that truth there.
And, you know, the same thing applies to curbside service. You know, there's a lot of breweries that have kind of made the comment that as soon as COVID disappears and their tap room opens up, they're not going to continue on with curbside. And, you know, my thought is, you know, 10% of something is still better than 100% of nothing.
Absolutely.
And so if you're getting a percent of people that just want to drive up and have you run beer out, run the beer out. You know, you're selling more beer than, you know, if they're not going to come into the tap room. So make it as easy as you can for your customers to buy your product, and then give them a reason to keep coming back.
Absolutely. And, you know, like in the same way, like a lot of consumer behavior is changing when it comes to like groceries and like how Amazon is shaping everything, you know, like what you can implement the same thing. I would love the idea that if I'm one day driving around and like meetings or doing stuff, like on my way home, I want a beer, but I want to stop at the tap room. I would love to have the chance to like place an order, bring it to my car so I can go home to my family, you know, like having those options available, like it is insane. Like I told you too, you know, I have somebody tell me once COVID is over, like we're going to shut all social media stuff because we are a hospitality business. Like you can be hospitality business online too, you know?
Look at Marriott, look at Hilton, you know, they're all entertainment. You know, you travel somewhere but they didn't turn their websites off. They haven't stopped their social media. You know, it's one of those things that you have to be on top of all the time, because if you don't, it goes away.
Absolutely. Now, I know that we talked about this in our call last week about the importance of data, you know, and I talk about that on my presentation on the craft beer conference. But I know that you have a concept about what's data and how is an important piece right now, especially with social media, like you were saying, instead of just reaching out to your customer base in your area, now you can start reaching out to more states. How you can explain the brewery owners or whoever is listening to this, how you can actually start utilizing this data to your benefit.
Right. Every brewery has an email list, whether they're taking newsletter subscribers off their website, or they're collecting names in the tap room, or they're getting them through social media, or they're collecting them at festivals. Hint, hint here, make sure you're getting email addresses at festivals. Because it's a great source. Everybody's afraid to use email marketing. And I think it's ridiculous because if somebody doesn't want to get your email, they're not going to give you their email address. If you start to email them after they've given you permission and they decide they don't want them anymore, they're going to opt out. You know what? They don't want your information. They're probably not a good customer anyways. Who cares? The whole goal is to collect as many email addresses as you can. But you also have to use segmentation. So you have to ask the customers, what's their favorite beer style? Are they an IPA? Are they a stout? Are they a porter? Are they a German style? Are they a Belgian style? What's their favorite kind of beer and why? And you segment that list. And so what happens is every time you're announcing a beer or you're doing something, you can email to that specific list of IPA drinkers, and you can talk technical with them. You can say, we're using 3 different hops. 2 of them are experimental. One's a Cascade, and we're using this kind of grain, and this is the kind of flavor we're using. We're dry hopping. We're hopping in a whirlpool. We're doing all these different things, and this is why this beer is so fantastic and why you're going to love it, And you send a different email to that group than you do to everybody else on the list, because you want everybody else to know that you're coming out with a new beer, a new launch. And the whole goal here is to make people aware, B, drive demand, and C, is to get people into the tap room or into retail to buy your product. In a month from now, we have Black Friday.
Yeah.
People should be planning their Black Friday emails and setting them up to go out 2 weeks before, 1 week before, 3 days before, 2 days before, 1 day before. You want as many people lining up at your door to buy that Black Friday beer. Oh, and if you run out of beer, you still have other beers on tap. They're gonna buy the beer. And we talk about this with all of our breweries, is if you're using that email, show them the t-shirt that's going to be on sale during Black Friday. Show them that baseball cap, show them the growler, show them whatever you're going to sell, because if they're coming in to buy a $22 bottle of Black Friday beer, you might as well sell them a hat and a t-shirt while they're there. So instead of a $22 sale, you've got a $60 sale. They're walking out with a bottle of beer and possibly 2 Christmas gifts for 2 of their beer buddies, or they're going to keep them for themselves. But the whole goal is to increase your average dollar sale. So you've got a captive audience. You got 200 people standing in line to buy your beer on Black Friday. You need to let them know what your offer is before they get there, so they're showing up with enough cash and buying enough stuff before they leave. So the other thing is, you have to plan and make sure that you're ordering enough, not just beer, but t-shirts and hats and can holders and things that you're going to be selling to these people while they're standing in line. Here's another great idea. Buy a wagon, put a bunch of solo cups in it, put a 1/4 barrel or a 1/2 barrel on the wagon with a tap on the top, have a little cash drawer, and walk down the line of your customers and sell them beer while they're standing in line. Put a couple of t-shirts and a couple of hats in the wagon, sell them whatever they want to buy. You've got a captive audience. So getting back to data, there's so much information out there and nobody uses it. It's like a great recipe. It only works if you use it. Data is the same way. It's only good if you use it. So if you have all this data, start to segment your list. And if you don't know how to segment your list, or you don't know how to do email marketing, contact someone like Promote the Brew. Contact someone like Pedro and say, what do I do? Let us help you. Let us guide you down that path, and let us show you how much more effective you can be and how we can increase your sales. One of the best strategies in the world is to get more money out of the customers you currently have. You know,
Amen.
it costs you a ton of money to go out and get new customers. It costs you nothing to increase the amount of money you're getting from your customers other than treating them well and giving them information. And so you should have two strategies. One is get new customers. B is get more money from your current customers. So the more customers you get, the more customers you have to increase sales with over time. And so if you take a look at the lifetime value of your customer and track that every quarter, and you say, okay, this customer is worth this much, next quarter they're worth this much, you can see how much they're spending with you. And if you start to see that you're plateauing, maybe you're not providing enough value to your customers, or maybe you're missing the boat on communication, and maybe your message is wrong, or maybe you're not engaging enough. And so these are really great data points, key performance indicators that really show you where your business is and what you can be doing strategically to continue to grow your business.
Wow. So good. So good, man. Yeah. No, I love it, because that's something that I always say, like acquisition is going to make you fast money, but retention is going to make you long money,
Oh yeah. Harley-Davidson was a customer of mine for 25 years. And every year I grew that business. And so, like I said, if you have one customer, but you continue to increase the money that they're spending with you, your advertising or your cost of acquisition goes way down, because
Right.
you're providing the same stuff, but you're making more money on it. So the same thing is, so you take part of that money, you invest it on new customers. Referral programs, you've got a handful of customers sitting at your tap room day in and day out. Get a bunch of business cards made with your logo on the front and an area on the back that says good for one free beer. Put a line at the bottom, write your customer's name on it, give them 25 cards. Tell them when those 25 cards are handed in for free beers, you'll give them a free beer for handing out those cards. Talk about people going out and selling your business for a free beer. That's almost as easy as people buying a t-shirt to advertise for you. Yeah. I mean, the strategies are so easy, but you have to spend the time to get them set up, and you have to track those cards when they come in to make sure you're seeing the value of that. So 25 people come in and get a beer, they're going to buy one or two more. So if you're selling beers for, let's say, $5, so they get one free beer, they spend $10. Now you got 25, that's $250 from a customer you didn't have the week before.
Wow. That's so
pretty
true.
easy, I think.
Yeah. And when you start breaking out the number, you start realize how much money you're leaving on the table.
Oh yeah. And that's the same thing with the beer token at retail. All of a sudden, you put them out at retail and you get 18 people with 200 people in their social media feed, and they post a picture of that token and they say, this was in my 4-pack of beer that I bought at the grocery store. I'm going into the tap room tomorrow. They've just, let's say there's 5 people, they've shared it with 2,000 people or 200 people. That's 10,000 people that now know that you have these little wooden tokens at the grocery store in 4 packs of beer. How fast do you think that beer is going to sell?
Absolutely. And that, guys, is the power of social media.
Yeah. And so you've got to invest in these kind of programs to see that kind of growth and that kind of money coming back into your tap room.
Absolutely. And, just to add a little bit about your email list and all that kind of stuff, sometimes it's understandable that people don't like to get emails. Like, I hate all these emails, I hate them. Like, with all my heart, I don't like to get emails. But you know what I like? I like to get updates on Facebook Messenger. So what I'm trying to say is that there's options available, and that can be another way you can segment your audience, like you can give them the option. You would like to get email, text message, or through Messenger updates, like you can use a chatbot, or because I don't like emails, but I like to get updates of the brands that I like through Facebook Messenger, so if they give me the option to opt in for that, I don't mind if you flood my inbox with messages telling me, oh, we have free beer for you today and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, there's more options available nowadays. It can be text, can be email, can be ringless voicemail if you want, and chatbots, all that kind of stuff, So, yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, man.
And, we talked about engagement earlier on. And so, using your email list and sending out a survey saying, hey, we're planning our 2012 or 2021 beer production. Here's a list of beers that we're thinking about. Which ones would you like to see? Let's say you got a list of 2,500 people. You send them that survey. Let's say 20% or 500 people respond. Now you've engaged with the customer. Now when you come out with those beers, you can email those 500 people and say, hey, that beer you voted on? It's coming out in 2 weeks. Now you've engaged. Now they feel like they've been a part of the whole beer crafting process. You do the same thing with hats, with t-shirts, with glassware. You show them a picture of 3, and you can do this on social media. You can do this on Instagram. You can set up polls. You can say, here's t-shirt design A, t-shirt design B, here's t-shirt design C. Let us know which one you like the best. And you let them vote on it for a week. And then you go out and you make the t-shirt, and then you post it back up on social media and say, hey, this is the t-shirt everybody liked. They're in the tap room. Come and get yours.
Right.
Yeah. Now they've been a part of the whole t-shirt picking process, and they're going to come in and buy one because they were part of the team that selected the shirt that won.
Absolutely. And then they feel part of the brand. They feel part of your brewery, and then they're going to love you even more. Yeah,
exactly.
That's absolutely right. I love that, man. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. It's very powerful. I
you.
really hope people can, if you taking notes or can really get some great ideas, because you've been sharing great ideas. Are probably the best ideas I have here. Somebody marketing sharing here on my podcast so far, man. Like everybody have shared great ideas. Don't get me wrong, but I have never listened to the ideas like the ones that you're sharing right now. So you're changing my mind too a little bit too. Helping me grow.
The other thing too, my email and my phone number are in the podcast notes. So if you want to reach out to me directly, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about some of these strategies. Be really happy to help you implement some of these strategies as well. Because Absolutely. Like I said, I get really jazzed, and, it's really exciting for us to help a customer and then see that success and be excited at the results. It's a whole partnership.
No, absolutely. No, I totally agree with you. But we're going to put all your information in the description. So if people want to reach out to you, we've been here almost for an hour. So I think it's time to wrap this up, man. I mean, okay. I can keep talking with you for another hour. I mean, you have brought so much value to this hour and to this podcast right now. And I'm really grateful for that, and I'm sure
thank you.
My audience will appreciate that. But before we leave, man, what would be one last piece of advice you can give this audience right now? Especially like we are entering like the last 2 months of the year, like hopefully all this bullshit is going to be over, right? Soon we can go back a little bit to our normal lives. But what would be that last piece of advice you will give to these people, man?
Okay. This is a piece of advice I got from one of our customers. And when COVID hit, they shut down the doors, they got everybody into the tap room, and they said, this is what's going on. This is the problem. What are we going to do? And he sat there with a notepad and a piece of paper, and he wrote down all the suggestions that his staff had given him. And then when they were done, he put them all together. And then as a group, they prioritized them and they voted on them. And it was that kind of engagement with their employees, the people that are actually doing the work, that brought a ton of value. And then every week they would get together for this meeting and they would say, okay, this is what happened this week. What are we going to do different next week? And every week through COVID, they've been having these meetings and they have been changing their business every week to accommodate or adjust to whatever is going on in the world and in their marketplace. And I think that it's so amazing to go to your staff and say, what's going on? How do we fix it? How do we make this better? Because it's such an awesome engagement strategy, and it costs you nothing to have your employees tell you what's the best way to move forward. And then as a group, vote on or prioritize what's the things you need to get done. Marketing and planning for 2021 is the same thing. Sit down, and incorporate, work with your staff and say, okay, what worked in 2020, even though it was a shitstorm? What worked? What can we do next year to not only do this, but do it better? How can we not only provide service, but provide better service? How can we not only make great beer, but how can we do it better? How can we promote our business, but promote it better? And then start to put these ideas together and then put together a plan. Start to, all these breweries spend all this time planning out their beer for the year, but they don't plan anything else. They don't align anything else. So take it one quarter at a time and say, okay, quarter 2021, we're going to launch these 5 beers. What are we going to do to promote our business? We're going to promote the beer, but what are we going to do to promote our business? What are the events? What are the social media posts? What are the engagement strategies? What are some of the things that we're going to do in addition to these beers that are going to drive business to our business? And list those things out, and then look at your staff and say, okay, who's going to take charge of this? If it's something that they can't handle or don't have the experience or expertise in, then you call somebody like us or somebody like Pedro and you say, we need your help. And then engage us, and spend a little money, because you're going to make a ton of money. What we do is a small expense compared to the amount of revenue that these ideas and these things generate when done properly. And I think that's
absolutely. Yeah, no, that was really good, man. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, that's perfect advice, especially for this last few months of the year. I think, it's important to start planning, like we already have with my wife almost half of our 2021 planned, planning all of our strategies and all that stuff, because we're not going to just sit down here and wait until January 1st to start planning something, So I think it is something very, very powerful. Anybody who owns a business, runs a brewery, can do right now.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to think about worst case scenarios, because you just lived the last 8 months in the worst case scenario. So everything that you learned during the past 8 months should be things that you're applying to your 2021 strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go, guys. Thank you so much, man. I think that's a really, very powerful advice, and I hope this can make people think about it, and really start taking some actions towards that. And I know you understand that, because you have the mindset of an entrepreneur, and I mean, you learned that from your dad, and you have that salesperson in you, and I love that, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
But thank you, man, for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I really have a lot of fun, and I learned from you too, in these hours. So I'm really grateful for that. And for you guys listening, if you enjoy the show, make sure to share it with somebody or put it on social media, send in a DM, a text message, an email, whatever you can do to help us spread the word. And also make sure you leave us a review on iTunes and subscribe to the YouTube channel, so more people can find the show and get access to all this valuable information. I will see you guys for the next episode. In the meantime, be safe, keep working hard, and cheers. Later.
Cheers.
Later, man. Take care. Hey guys, thank you for watching. This show was brought to you by the Marketing Brewing Company, an industry-leading marketing provider and coaching firm. If this episode have provided with valuable information for you and your business, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you know somebody who needs to hear this, share it with them. Send me a text message, a DM, put it on social media, whatever you can do to spread the word. And lastly, if you're a brewery owner ready to take your business to the next level, make sure you head to marketingbrewingco.com and fill out the form to get started and get your free assessment of your current marketing and sales strategies. I will see you guys for the next episode. In the meantime, cheers.